positive of Sue Montgomery's knowing and willful participation in Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse cover-up. And it's also clear circumstantial evidence that Sue Montgomery was not happy about the fact that I was able to resume my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal when my lawyer had my court conditions modified and clarified to clearly allow me to be here. Although, as I said, from the beginning, as a result of a SPVM error, I probably could have been here anyway, because they wrote down the Unitarian Church of Montreal in the wrong section of the document. But anyway, that wasn't known to me until my lawyer pointed it out to me. So I basically did not protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal in the rest of December or January or February until possibly late February. The conditions were modified on the 19th of February, if I'm not mistaken, and but I have a feeling that I may not have immediately resumed my protest for various reasons. So in any case, I was here on March 18th, and I had previously protested at least once or twice when Sue Montgomery came along and quite literally, trampled on my civil rights and freedoms by quite literally trampling on my picket signs, because she did stomp on one, if I remember correctly. She literally stomped on one of my picket signs that she was kicking into the street to express her disapproval. So anyhow, fair bit of car traffic here. I guess that's because of the Turcotte interchange construction chaos. So anyhow, camera seems to have been recording properly. It did shut off, unbeknownst to me in my previous monologue, but it seems to be chugging along quite well right now. So I was able to more or less repeat, what I said that almost certainly didn't get recorded earlier. Anywho, okay, yeah, here's one of the people who has tried to shut down my protest in the past by misusing the criminal justice system. So, yeah, one of the Unitarian Universalists, Montreal Unitarians, who has directly participated in misuse of the criminal justice system to suppress my ability to engage in peaceful public protest. And in fact, she and others were moderately successful, because what happened back in 2007, 2008 is that the new minister, Reverend Diane Rollert, claimed to be very frightened of me. She misconstrued a pretty straightforward statement in one of my emails to her as a threat against her when it was no such thing. And she also outright lied about me confronting her. I did confront her verbally one day, but I basically confronted her in a manner that's no different, in terms of tone of voice than what I'm saying right now. I just basically asked her, did you get my email? And I was trying to follow up on that. The encounter took place where that construction cone is, more or less. And then as she walked away from me, I did raise my voice a bit because she was walking away from me. At a certain point, she was on the other side of the street. And so, I just raised my voice to a louder level just so she could, hear what I'm saying as she walked away, because there was still some things that I think she needed to hear. So she pretended that this was me screaming at her, which was ridiculous, because anyone who knows me knows that it's pretty well something I never do. I never scream at anyone, to the best of my knowledge. If I do, it's extremely rare. But I will occasionally raise my voice. I will occasionally speak quite forcefully in a loud voice. But in this case, I wasn't even angry or anything. I was just raising my voice so she could hear me. And basically, it was not in my interest to be confrontational at that point. I was trying to seek dialogue with her. So she just made up this bullshit story about being afraid of me and fearing for her safety, blah, 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 so she could obtain a restraining order against me. That's what it was all about. It was all about obtaining a restraining order against me so she could prevent me from protesting outside the church. You know, very similar to what Sue Montgomery is doing now, except Sue Montgomery took it a bit further by actually pressing criminal charges against me. So anyhow, they were actually successful because I got one of the worst judges in Quebec handling the hearings over whether or not to grant the restraining order. And this judge, who I would characterize as A, less than competent, and B, biased against me, and certainly biased in favor of Reverend Diane Rollert. You know, this judge prevented me from thoroughly cross-examining Reverend Diane Rollert, who was the only witness, so that I could show that, you know, her claims to be afraid of me were not very well founded. In fact, every time I tried to cross-examine Reverend Diane Rollert a little bit more deeply after she lied or told a misleading half-truth, the judge prevented me from further cross-examining Diane Rollert in order to get to the actual truth. And so, you know, to make a long story short, the restraining order was granted. I did want to contest it. I did want to appeal it because I felt it was unjustified. But unfortunately, when the ruling was made, it was in the middle of the summer. It was June or July, and it was difficult to get a lawyer. A lot of the lawyers were basically on vacation, something that I was sort of unaware of, that, you know, a whole bunch of lawyers go on vacation in the middle of the summer, and so they're harder to find. I mean, I could have found one if I tried hard enough. I could have just got a public defender lawyer, but I decided, you know, what the heck, you know, let them shut me down for a year, and then I'll just come back and resume my protest and show them that it was a stupid thing to do, you know, that basically didn't resolve their problem at all. And in fact, when I walked out of the court, you know, even though I was intending to appeal, I nonetheless, you know, said thanks for the holiday, you know, making it very, very clear that, you know, if this 1 year shutdown of my protest actually came into effect, you know, that I would think of it as a holiday and I'd resume my protest when it was over, and then that's exactly what I did. And there was further SPVM interference in my protest. I'm being polite when I say interference. You know, there was some real harassment. There was some real intimidation, some real harassment on the part of some SPVM officers after I resumed my protest. In particular, a certain sergeant detective who threatened to have me arrested and so on. In any case, you know, I basically stood up to the intimidation and harassment. I actually brought a police ethics commission complaint against the sergeant detective in question, and it was settled to my satisfaction in conciliation. And I can assure you that it would not have been settled to my satisfaction in conciliation if it wasn't acknowledged that his behavior actually was intimidation and harassment. So anyhow, that's like brings us into like 2011, 2010, 2011. There was further police intimidation in 2012, 2013, mainly with further threats of arrest or tickets or whatever. But by that time, I was recording almost everything. And so I actually had video of these SPVM police officers, you know, making ridiculous claims, you know, in their efforts to try and dissuade me from protesting. And, you know, those videos went up on YouTube, and the SPVM officers in question didn't come out of it looking very good. And so after a while, I think the SPVM got tired of the embarrassing videos and decided the best thing to do is just let me exercise my rights. Okay, there's Mark Abley, a Gazette columnist or freelancer who works for the Gazette. Mark Abley has basically buried his head in the sand here, and he's one of those many Montreal Unitarians who were in total denial of the validity of my protest here. He's in total denial of the clergy abuse issues that I'm protesting against and the cover-up and so on. So anyhow, we got someone else approaching here who I've had a few chats with in the past. So anyhow, doesn't look like she's terribly interested in saying anything today, and I'd rather show my picket signs to the bikes in any case. Quite a lot of car traffic too. Again, I think this is because of the Turcotte construction causing cars to use de Maisonneuve as an alternative route. So that's more customers for my picket signs. Anyhow, yeah, I think we're going to wrap this up soonish. Not quite sure what time it is, but I'm guessing it's around 11:15, 10 to 11. Let's see if I can pull out my timepiece here and see what time it actually is. 10:39, so I was a little ahead of myself there, but close. 6 minutes off. Anyhow, we shall continue to circulate. I'm just going to check to see if this thing's still recording because it's coming to the end of the time. Oh yeah, we're almost done here in terms of the half-hour segment of video. So I think I'll do one more half-hour or even less segment of video and protesting. You know, continue for another 10, 15 odd minutes, which is normal. I usually wrap up at 11-ish. Let's see here. Yeah, we're pretty well coming to the end of the tape, as it were. Let's just have a look at the chalk slogan here as the time ticks down.